In the royal courts of Israel, two men stood at the crossroads of destiny. One was Jonathan, the son of King Saul, heir to the throne by birth. The other was David, the shepherd boy who had slain Goliath, a rising warrior favored by God and loved by the people. By every rule of succession, these two should have been rivals. Yet what unfolded between them was something far greater than ambition, a covenant stronger than the crown itself. The Bible tells us in 1 Samuel 18 that after David's victory over Goliath, Jonathan's soul became knit to David's. He loved him as his own soul. In a powerful gesture, Jonathan removed his royal robe and gave it to David, along with his armor, sword, and bow. This was not a simple exchange of gifts. It was a surrender of claim, a declaration that David's destiny was greater than his own. Jonathan knew that God had chosen David to be king, yet instead of resisting, he embraced God's plan. He chose loyalty to God's purpose over loyalty to his own inheritance. That is the essence of covenant, selfless, sacrificial love that puts God's will above personal gain. But their bond was soon tested. King Saul, driven by jealousy and fear, sought David's life. Time and again, Jonathan became David's shield. He warned him of danger, spoke on his behalf, and even defied his own father to protect him. In one emotional moment, Jonathan and David met in secret. They wept together, knowing Saul's rage would not relent. And Jonathan said these unforgettable words, "Go in peace, for we have sworn friendship with each other in the name of the Lord." Imagine the weight of that choice. Jonathan was the rightful heir. David was the anointed king. Yet Jonathan laid aside the crown for the sake of covenant, for the sake of God's plan. His loyalty was not to power, not to position, but to the promise of God. Imagine the weight of that choice. Jonathan was the rightful heir. David was the anointed king. Yet Jonathan laid aside the crown for the sake of covenant, for the sake of God's plan. His loyalty was not to power, not to position, but to the promise of God. Their friendship shows us that true covenant love is not built on convenience, but on sacrifice. It chooses humility over pride, faith over fear, and obedience over ambition. Jonathan's life teaches us that sometimes the greatest crown is not the one placed on your head, but the one you lay down in service of God's will. Though Jonathan's story ended tragically on the battlefield beside his father Saul, his covenant with David lived on. Years later, when David became king, he remembered Jonathan's kindness. He sought out Jonathan's son, Mephibosheth, not to destroy him as rival kings might do, but to honor him because of covenant. David restored his inheritance and welcomed him to eat at the king's table, just as Jonathan would have wished. So what does this mean for us today? It reminds us that true friendship is not about what we can gain, but what we are willing to give. It reminds us that God's purposes are higher than our ambitions. And it reminds us that covenant, rooted in faithfulness, sacrifice, and love, can outlast even crowns and kingdoms. David and Jonathan's story whispers across time. A covenant made in God is stronger than any crown the world can offer. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more spirit-filled videos.